In this video, we're going to go ahead and build the fingers and hand. We're going to be using a similar technique where we created the cylinder. We're going to go into the inputs and play with the radius, the height, and the subdivision axis. We want to keep this at a relatively low subdivision level, so around 8. Just like we did with the arm. Let's rotate on X about 90 degrees to make it flat. Let's move it all the way up. Let's change that height to about maybe 14, maybe more. Rotate it, put it in place, and then you'll have more or less a good idea in terms of what you currently have and the size. At this point, I'm gonna go into my rotate X and change it back to 90. I'm gonna place it somewhere here temporarily up until I get all the details of the finger. Now let's play with the subdivision height. Let's add about 6 there. We can come in and select the faces on this end and delete those. Make sure you have nothing else selected and click delete. So therefore there's only one end, and this will be the tip of the finger. Let's now grab the vertices and let's start moving these around. Maybe pull that one out. Using the vertices, we're gonna keep on developing the shape of the finger. I'm probably gonna be scaling this up a bit. We're doing the same here. Almost like gradually tapering the finger. Just like so. We can grab this end, moving slightly downwards. Maybe put it back a bit. We'll probably grab this area and scale it down a bit. Well, actually, probably just the bottom vertices. We can move them slightly up. We'll do the same here. Just like so. Okay. This top area, just move it slightly higher. Same thing here. Pull that in, just like so. We can add more edge loops by going into Edit Mesh, Offset Edge Loop. When we click there on the option box, let's go now into Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop, click on the option box, and we'll do multiple edge loops. 2 is fine. Here now we can go into Offset Edge Loop. And by click and dragging, I can add now multiple subdivisions here, more resolution for the joints. Maybe just like that. Grab the vertices. Maybe now reposition these vertices accordingly so that it looks more like a finger. Let's add a couple of edge loops. Maybe one here, one there. Now we can move those vertices slightly upwards. All right. You can also take a look from above. Here we're just stylizing them just slightly so that they look a bit more cartoony. Now we can go in and create fingernails. Maybe we'll move that back slightly. Go to the faces, select this faces here. Let's go ahead and extrude. Take the offset to about 0.1. Also push them, you can push it down slightly, kind of gradually there until you find something you're happy with. I would even go in and rotate this slightly, just like so. So the vertices, maybe move them down a bit, push them in ever so slightly. Select these vertices or edges. You can do it with either. Let's do it with the edges. Kind of move them outwards a bit. Select the vertices. Just like that. You can push these two slightly inwards. Somewhere along those lines. Let's go ahead and smooth preview. All right, just a little bit of a fingernail. We got good indications for the joints. All right, start looking like a real finger. We can always stylize this if we wanted to, but maybe grabbing some of the vertices at the very top end and maybe moving them backwards. There you have more of a square out fingernail for fingertip. Maybe move some of these backwards a little bit. Now we can bend this finger so that it looks a little bit more relaxed. You can do it by slightly moving the vertices down gradually. You can also rotate. Let's go to object mode. Rotate these slightly. And at this point, our finger is pretty much done. Looks pretty complete. Let's go ahead and duplicate this finger a couple of times to create the other ones. Control D, duplicates it, move it slightly to the side, then probably will scale down the index finger, and move it back in space, then delete, or sorry, duplicate. Now I'll probably push this one a little bit down. Still keep them relatively close to each other. We'll definitely scale this one down. Even more so than the index finger. Push it into back in space. And lastly, one more time, and to create the little finger. Just like so. We can maybe go to the top view, put them in place, slightly rotate them. Almost like creating an arc at the top, also here at the bottom. If you look at them from the side view, or from the perspective view, right, we rotate them a little bit, and then we can come in and just add slightly more rotation. If you press D on your keyboard, you can move the pivot point. Press D again. This will allow you to actually move some of these fingers in the right orientation. So remember that is pressing D to get access to the pivot point, and then D again. Of course, look at your references. If your finger starts to look a little too small, just kind of know that you may need to go back and readjust them. And I might need to do that actually with mine. But for now, this is good. We can always adjust it a little bit later as we go on. Now let's go ahead and do the thumb. So delete. So duplicate. Then kind of like rotate outwards. Move it in place. I would probably get rid of some of these faces. Top ones. We will need those. Probably select the vertices. Scaling them up. You can always change the orientation from world to object. Maybe something like that. Change it back to world. And now move it into place. Go to object mode. Then move it into place. You can always, if you run into this issue, go into modify center pivot. This will give you slightly more control. And using your reference here, you can actually move these fingers into place. And now let's adjust them so that they actually match our reference. All right, great. Remember, you can always select these objects. Press number 3 to kind of see the result that you got when it's smooth. And what we're going to be doing next is combining all these different objects into one object and then creating the hand that will connect all these fingers together. All right, we'll do that next.